An original film and a remake or reimagining of the film are normally easily compared. One examines the acting, the cinematography, the plot, the themes, everything, and boils down where one is superior to the other, and in which aspects. Such conclusions in these categories are still subjective, of course, but arguments can still be made in a standard compare and contrast method. If there were ever a pair of films connected through this original and remake lifeline that were nearly impossible to properly and fairly compare, it would be the 1995 science fiction film 12 Monkeys and the 1962 French short film which inspired it, La Jetée. Screenwriters David and Janet Peoples, as well as director Terry Gilliam, took the seed of a feature in this short film and grew it into something larger, grander, and completely different. Sometimes when a filmmaker takes the source material on such a different path, the result is that of a perversion of the original intent, or at the very least, something inferior to the original. That is not the case with 12 Monkeys. The acting in 12 Monkeys is strong, but not for its believable performances. Rather, Gilliam dusted a kind of Python-esque zaniness to the proceedings while keeping the drama. Brad Pitt played against type in this film, especially for 90s Pitt. Consider his work in that decade. At the time, he played good-looking guys like in Thelma and Louise, good-looking cops like in Seven and Cool World, good-looking anti-heroes like in Fight Club and Interview with the Vampire, and the personification of death who is still somehow very attractive in Meet Joe Black. You know, that sort. In 12 Monkeys, he is frantic and disheveled, and somehow at his best. 12 Monkeys is among the best uses for Pitt in his entire filmography. He is not one of the all-time great actors, but he is at his best when unrestrained. Bruce Willis plays the lead. He was an 80s and 90s action star, but there is almost nothing in the way of action in this film. He portrays a sad, lonely man. Again, this is one of his best and most complete roles. Willis is best when melancholy, like in Unbreakable, Looper, and this film. There is virtually no acting in the short film because, with the exception of the narrator, nobody says anything or even moves. The short film is a series of still, black and white photographs with narration played over them. It's a slideshow, a very good slideshow, but still a slideshow. There is no way in which the on-camera actors can fully act. They are more like models than anything else. We watch them from still photograph to still photograph, and rely almost entirely on the narrator to tell us what is happening. The visuals of 12 Monkeys are best in the scenes taking place in the distant future. After the apocalypse, technology has been slowly resuscitated back to life in a slapdash kind of way, making the time machine and interrogation bits look almost comical and certainly unique. Gilliam, after all, was an animator and artist. Obviously, the short film has its own distinct style as well, foregoing the motion part of motion picture. It creates a kind of desperation in mood, of longing, of a world gone wrong and everything changed. It's also, in every way, the opposite of 12 Monkeys, which is in motion, and while also in color, can also be considered colorful in appearance. The plot is where they diverge the most. Both are about time travel and a man who remembers seeing someone die in an airport before the world ended. But beyond that, they could not be more disparate. 12 Monkeys, in addition to being about 4 times the length of the original short film, contains greater focus on themes. Religion is frequently mentioned in 12 Monkeys. Dr. Rayleigh teaches about apocalyptic visions. A street preacher is calling for the end of days, but the most striking reference to faith is when Dr. Rayleigh calls psychiatry the new religion. This is mentioned only once in the film, but once is enough. There is an interpretation of this suggestion. Faith is a delusion. It's all in the mind, and not in the real, material world. This is either a frightening vision, or terribly reassuring, depending on one's outlook of the universe. However, there is another line which suggests that the doctor might not believe this. She says, of psychiatry as a religion, that she is losing her faith, hinting that she is open to fantastic, however incredibly unlikely, notions. Next, the theme of insanity plays into the notion of psychiatry as religion too. Willis's character, James Cole, is unfairly labeled as insane because he came from the future and told everyone about this. He actually did come from the future. His sanity can still be called into question, but not because of this. Pitt's character, Jeffrey Goins, is absolutely insane. almost cartoonishly so. He shares the same living space as Cole in spite of the fact that only one is truly insane. Goins philosophizes at regular intervals in the film about the question of sanity versus insanity, that what we see as insane changes over time. This is connected with the theme of religion. Faith shapes one's outlook of reality, but so does psychiatry. The film brings about questions without ever explicitly asking them. Is it insane to have faith, something that is by definition irrational? How much of how we see the world is rational? Are we even rational creatures? 12 Monkeys is less about the world and more about how we see it. It is not a film about the external, but the internal. Goins, though clearly insane, makes several good points in his wild ramblings, and he also spews some nonsense. But if he is right about some things, could he be proven right in time about others? He never calls it by name, but he is speaking about humanity's slow ascent towards enlightenment and the change in attitudes over time. Goins tells Cole that people who believed in germs were once considered crazy, but the existence of germs was eventually proven true. In the present, we don't have evidence of time travel, but in the film's future, it is reality. Although, in the future, the scientists constantly make mistakes with the time machine, sending Cole to the wrong year, further cementing the theme of mankind's glacial crawl towards knowledge. The march of time is evident in this time travel movie. The short film contains precious little of this. That is not to say that 12 Monkeys is definitively and objectively a better picture than its inspiration. After all, there is a kind of simple beauty to still black and white photographs that is not present in modern film. However, one must confess that when comparing the two films, 12 Monkeys has a lot more meat on the bone. As for the themes, it can be posited that the screenwriters, who were also responsible for other thoughtful films like Blade Runner and Unforgiven, meant for the conversations about faith and sanity to be explorations, not declarations, meaning that one can come to a conclusion opposite someone else and still be valid. 12 Monkeys is more like the beginning of a conversation rather than the end, a question, not a conclusion. Both the feature film and the short film are good companion pieces to the other, and not to belabor the point, they are worth thinking about.